Hare Krishna. So thank you very much for the opportunity to speak on Srimad Bhagavatam. So we're speaking mostly to an online audience. We need more people to join up to the temple, so temple will be full. Hare Krishna. Radhika Jivan, you play cutoff, then I can play Madanga. Okay? Or you can play Madanga too. Thank you. I see. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Jaya Gopi Janavalabha Girivardhari Jaya Jaya Gopi Janavalabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Radhe Jaya Radha Radhanath Radha Radhanath Radhe Jaya Gora Nitai Gora Nitai Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai. Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Shri Shri Radha Radhanath ki, Shri Shri Nitai Gaura Hari ki, Jai Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajgacharya Stotara Sata Shri Srimad Abhay Charanar Vinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki, Jai Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajgacharya Stotara Sata Shri Srimad Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj ki, Ananta Koti Vaishnavind ki, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki, Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Veda Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktavrind ki, Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shyamakun Radha Kun Giri Govardhan ki Jai, Vrindavan Dham ki Jai, Mayapur Navadvip Dham ki Jai, Nilachal Jagannath Puri Dham ki Jai, Gangamaya Jamunamaya ki Jai, Tulasi Devi Bhakti Devi ki Jai, Harinam Sankirtan ki Jai, Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki Jai, Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda ki Jai, Gaur Premanande Hari 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 Bo. Hare Krishna. So we're continuing our reading of Srimad Bhagavatam, and the cantos, Canto 4, Chapter 21, Text 8. We are reading about the Leela of Maharaj Prithu, King Prithu. And very, very interesting Leela indeed, with lots of learning points from King Prithu's life and example and mission. So we are now going to be reading, text 7, not 8. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam Devim saraswati vyasam tato jaye udhiraye Nasta prayashu abhidreshu nittam bhagavata sevaya Bhagavati uttama shloke bhakti bhavate naistake Om namo bhagavate vasudevaya. Everyone can repeat that prayers, right? Om namo bhagavate vasudevaya. Om namo bhagavate vasudevaya. Canto 4, Chapter 21, Text 8 of Srimad Bhagavatam. Saevam adinya navadya chestitaha karmani bhuyamsi mahan mahatmaha kurvan shashashvani mandalam yasha spitam nidhyaruruhe param padam. So I'll do the word for word, and then we'll we'll call and respond. Sa, King Prithu, evam, thus, Adini, from the very beginning. Anavadya, magnanimous. Chestita, performing various works. Karmani, work. Bhuyamsi, repeatedly. Mahan, great. Mahatama, greater than the greatest. Kurvan, performing. Shashasha, ruled. Avani Mandalam, the surface of the earth. Yasha, reputation. Spitam, widespread. Nidhaya, achieving. Aruruhe, was elevated. Parampadam, to the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. Sa evam adinya anavadya chestitaha. Sa evam adini anavadya chestitaha. Sa evam adini anavadya chestitaha. Karmani bhuyamsi mahan mahatmaha. Karmani bhuyamsi mahan mahatmaha. Karmani bhuyamsi mahan mahatmaha. Kurvan shashashavani mandalam yasha. Spitam nidhaya ruruhe parampadam. Saevam adina anavadya chestitaha. Karmani bhuyamshi mahan mahatamaha. Kurvani shashashavani mandalam yasha. Spitam nidaya ruruhe parampadam. Saevam adina anavadya chestitaha. Adini. Do that again. Saevam adini anavadya chestitaha. Karmani bhuyamsi mahan mahatamaha. Kurvani shashashavani mandalam yasha. Spitam nidaya ruruhe parampadam. Radhika? Saevam adini anavadya chestitaha. Karmani bhuyamshi mahan mahatamaha. Kurvan shashashavani mandalam yasha. Vitam Nidaya Ruruhe Param Padam. The translation and the purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. King Prithu was greater than the greatest soul and was therefore worshipable by everyone. He performed many glorious activities in ruling over the surface of the world and was always magnanimous. After achieving such great success and a reputation which spread throughout the universe, he at last obtained the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The purport or the commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. A responsible king or chief executive has many responsible duties to attend to in ruling over the citizens. The most important duty of the monarch or the government is to perform various sacrifices as enjoined in the Vedic literatures. The next duty of the king is to see that every citizen executes the prescribed duties for his particular community. It is the king's duty to see that everyone perfectly executes the duties prescribed for the Varna and Ashram divisions of society. Besides that, as exemplified by King Prithu, he must develop the earth for the greatest possible production of food grains. There are different types of great personalities. Some are positive great personalities. Some are comparative. And some are superlative. But King Prithu exceeded them all. He is therefore described as Mahatma, greater than the greatest. Maharaj Prithu was a Kshatriya, and he discharged his Kshatriya duties perfectly. Similarly, Brahmanas, Vaishyas and Sudras can discharge their respective duties perfectly, and thus at the ultimate end of life be promoted to the transcendental world, which is called Param Padam. Param Padam, or the Vaikuntha planets, can be achieved only by devotional service. The impersonal Brahman region is also called Param Padam, but unless one is attached to the personality of Godhead, one must again fall down to the material world from the impersonal Parampadam situation. It is said, therefore, Aruhya Krichrena Parampadam Tataha. The impersonalists endeavor very strenuously to achieve the Parampadam or impersonal Brahmajyoti, but unfortunately, being bereft of a relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they come down again to the material world. If one flies into outer space, he can go very high up. But unless he reaches a planet, he must come down to earth again. Must come down again to earth. Similarly, because the impersonalists who reach the Parampadam of the impersonal Brahmajyoti do not enter into the Vaikuntha planets, they come down again to this material world and are given shelter in one of the material planets. Although they may attain Brahmaloka or Satyaloka, all such planets are situated in the material world. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vande Shri Vandeham Shri Guru Shyuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahaganala Lalita Shri Vishakanvitamsha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gorangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sutta Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpadarubhyasya Kipa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanabhyo Vaishnavabhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda. Everyone, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Mukam karoti vachalam pangam langayate girim. Yad kripa tamaham vande Shri Guru Dinatarinam. So this verse is glorifying Prithu Maharaj, and we see that Prithu Maharaj was actually engaged in performing a yagya in the previous chapters described. So this Prithu Maharaj, who is he? He is descending in the lineage of the great Dhruva Maharaj, coming through King Anga, whose son Vena was not an appropriate king, although he was a king for a short while, and became disposed by the Brahmanas, who then created Prithu Maharaj due to their mystic potency out of the body of King Vena. And Prithu Maharaj is a Shakti Avesh avatar, an empowered incarnation of the Supreme Lord. He was so pure and powerful with such good character that when he performed this Ashwamedha Yagya to become situated as the emperor of the world, then the Supreme Lord Krishna personally arrived at the arena, sacrificial arena. And there's an exchange of affection between the Lord and Prithu Maharaj. Beautiful exchange in which Prithu offers so many wonderful prayers. And the Lord benedicts Prithu Maharaj then to become empowered to rule this world. In fact, Prithu Maharaj, some background, is also called Chakravarti Maharaj. Powerful emperor, described that he had on his palm the imprint of the chakra, and also on his foot the lotus flower. So very empowered incarnation of the Supreme Lord, but still in the category of Shakti Avesh. What is Shakti Avesh? Means a living entity who becomes empowered by the Supreme Lord. We can see, maybe even you get an idea of that, like in Christianity, we have Jesus Christ. So he's also Shakti Avesh, empowered incarnation, empowered entity of the Supreme Lord. And here in the Bhagavatam, there are many, many empowered entities. Srila Prabhupada is also empowered living entity, Shakti Avesh. Without the empowerment of the Supreme Lord, they cannot achieve such wonderful activities in devotional service. So in this category, King Prithu is a Kshatriya. So here what has happened now, the sacrifice has been done, and all the Brahmins, the demigods, Krishna has returned, and so King Prithu is returning to his city. So it seems that the sacrificial arena was in some other location, but he's now returning to the city, and the chapter begins with the description of how King Prithu returns to the city, and the great sage Maitreya Rishi is speaking this to Vidura. So we have to understand Srimad Bhagavatam is a conversation between Sukadev Goswami and Emperor Parikshit Maharaj. And the great sages have spoken different aspects. So their conversations are being reported. So Srimad Bhagavatam is a series of conversations of different great sages about the devotees of Krishna and Krishna. The sages of Krishna. The sages, the devotees, and many, many kings who are obedient to the rule, the instructions of the Lord, as well as those kings who are not obedient. So we learn from the examples, both of the examples, by seeing the consequences of their actions. So Srimad Bhagavatam is describing, and now we are hearing from Maitreya Rishi speaking to Vidura, the banks of the Ganga, about the great king Prithu Maharaj. Vidura is the ideal disciple who is asking these questions with such great humility and warm-heartedness and softness. There's no harshness there. And Maitreya Rishi, being pleased, is bestowing this mercy, flowing so much mercy. One of the aspects for us to understand, even in our relationships with our own spiritual masters, and how to approach with humility. Trinad api sunechena taror eva shahishnana. How to approach with humility. Tadvidi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya. That one should inquire with submission and render some service. When you're rendering some service, then you obtain the benevolent glance of the devotees. And then they are more likely to engage with you in interaction in which you can ask some questions. So already the devotees feel so warm-hearted towards you when they see you doing service. So this mood has to be there in approaching a superior or even your peer for some enlightenment, some instruction. So here King Prithu has entered the arena. He's been received with such great pomp and ceremony. His city was festooned. So much of decoration, perfumed air, fragrance. The devotees, the residents were dressed in their best. So much. You can just hear the announcements at the gates by the guards and those trumpets. Chakravarti Maharaj Prithu entering on his chariot. Right? So much. So great. You can just see that excitement. The parallels of Krishna entering Dwarka. All the people on the balconies watching, throwing flowers. Ramachandra coming back to Ayodhya. So much great pomp. How powerful it must be to be there in that environment. I wish somehow we can participate in that. We'll ask Rukmini to create this drama for us with all of this great excitement. We can be part of it. So King Prithu has come. And now he's being described, his character is being described. So we heard from Gaurabhumi yesterday how the common citizens worship the king so heartily, and the characteristics of leaders, one who is attentive. Earlier in the last chapter we see how Krishna instructed King Prithu that you should, whether someone is greater than you or less than you or equal to you, you should treat them all equally. So here's this great king being instructed by the Lord about equality. And we speak about equality these days But we have a different understanding of that equality. But here, what is the equality? To see every living entity as spirit, soul, see with equal vision. Oops. Maybe just open some of the windows widely and lift them up, then that distressed bird will fly out. Thank you. Hare Krishna. So here to see, humble sage by virtue of true knowledge sees the sage, the elephant, the cow, the dog, and the dog eater with equality. So this is the vision, and instructed King Prithu, you do this. So here, King Prithu's qualities. King Prithu is greater than the greatest and was therefore worshipable by everyone. So we understand now that he is the Shakti-Avesh avatar, so greater than the greatest and worshipable by everyone. So the kings were divinely ordained. They were ordained, they were selected by the Brahmanas. But in this case, King Prithu is the first consecrated king of the planet Earth. And therefore he is so glorious. And you'll see later in his pastimes how he engages with Mother Bhumi, how he engages with her. But what are some of the duties of the Vedic kings? It says here, he performed many glorious activities ruling over the surface of the world and was always magnanimous. After achieving such great success and a reputation which spread throughout the universe, he at last obtained the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Srila Prabhupada emphasizes in the purport, a responsible king or chief executive has many responsible duties to attend to in ruling over the citizens. So what are some of the duties you think that these monarchs had, the Vedic kings? What do they do? Any ideas? What are some of them? The Kshatriya, remember? That will give you an idea. So, protection. Kshatrayate. Shat, injury. Trayate, to negate injury. Kshatrayate, to protect from injury. Kshatriya, the class of people. So the Kshatriya protected. So they protected the realm and they protected the citizens in their realm. But not only they protected the from injury, and so what else did they protect? They protected dharma, right? Good. So Rukmini says dharma. Can you tell us? Sorry. Right. So Rukmini says in the purport we're reading how they protect from, they protect Varnashra Dharma, everybody's duty and so on. And we'll expand that in a little while. So they are protective of the realm, the upholder of Dharma. So they have to be learned in welfare and they have to be in warfare and in welfare. So they had to do both. They had to protect warfare and welfare. So the king had to be able to ensure that everybody in the kingdom does their duty and then move them in their duty towards a focus on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this term Varnashra Dharma somehow is like an enigma. You know, we don't know it, or we know about it, but we don't quite know about it. Like, because the focus hasn't been so developed. Srila Prabhupada did say that we should develop Varnashra Dharma and the different opinions about it. But let's try and unpack that. So the king, beside being this, he was an advisor and a guide. And it's also described that he was the protector of the earth. In the purport we see, he must develop the earth for the greatest possible production of grains. Besides the duties and the Varnashra Dharma, he had to be the protector of the earth. So the king, one of his duties was to be ecologically conscious. We speak about it these days. But we see the rulers are not. They're having all of these, what is that? Climate summits all over the world. And in the last, 50 years, summit means the peak, right? So the next year they have another summit, so they go to another peak. I don't know how it works. They're supposed to go to the peak, summit. That's it, no more. By then you should make all the decisions and implement it. But then the next year they have another summit. So it's mocking that word, summit, right? So summit and summit and summit and summit. So many years summits are there, climate summits, but nothing's happening really. Nobody's taking it seriously. And we can see the devastating, in our own short lives now, we can see the changes in the climate, the devastating nature of Mother's Nature's fury. Her vengeance, actually, I think. So, coming back hard because you were so insensitive. But the kings, they knew how to protect. And they protected the brahmanas, they protected the cows. Cows were the mainstay of the agriculture. So agriculture and trade, they were very, very knowledgeable and engaged the persons like that. So there's some themes in this purport. I kind of figure there may be more, but like 3 themes. There's one is Varnashra Dharma coming there. Then there's also impersonalism. And then there's this kind of the summon bonum which we hear, the parampadam, the highest achievement. So the 3 kinds of ideas that are in this purport. So we may not have time for all of them. We'll just look at, we'll start with the Varnashra Dharma and see what we can discuss about that. So in Bhagavad Gita, I'd like to read some aspects from there. In Bhagavad Gita, in chapter 4, text 13, this verse is given, and in the purport, Srila Prabhupada also explains some important things about this Varna and Ashram. So Varna and Ashram forms the word Varnashram. And Dharma means the activity, right, of righteousness that is to be executed, the duties, the religious duties. So Varna, Ashram, Dharma. So in the verse 413, Chatur Vanyam Maya Shristam Guna Karma Vibhagasa Tasya Karataram Apimam Vidya Akarataram Avyayam. This is the verse. According to the 3 modes of material nature and the work associated with them, the 4 divisions of human society are created by me. And although I am the creator of this system, you should know that I am yet the non-doer, being unchangeable. So here is Krishna is speaking about his fixed position and being the non-doer, but he emphasizes he's the creator of the system. And he says 4 divisions here, because he's referring specifically to the 3 modes of material nature and the work associated. But the Varna and Ashram, this is the 4 Varnas. And what are the 4 Varnas? There's 4 Ashrams, there's 4 Varnas. Which are the 4? Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and the Sudra. Those are the 4 Varnas. Work associated with those Varnas. So Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Sudra. And in English, the Brahmanas, the class of religious practitioners who have attained Brahman, meaning a level of understanding of the difference between spiritual and material, and they are practicing. Then the Kshatriyas we've heard are the leaders, the warriors, the etc., administrators. And then Vaishyas, the merchants, the mercantile class. And Sudras, those who do not have capacity in other aspects but can only give their labor. Now this has been misrepresented by the British, who called it the class system. right? Actually, it's a horizontal division, not a vertical division, because there's meant to be different categories in society, each supporting each other. And the analogy is given of how the brahmanas are the head of society, and then the arms of society are the legs, and then the sudras, they support. So this way is given, but everybody has their duty to do. Like I recall seeing once when in Mahabharata, when the secret tunnel was being the Pandavas were sent on pretext to the palace for a holiday, and then the palace made of the lac, the flammable material, was going to be set alight and destroy them all. And Vidura informed them about this, so they dug the secret tunnel to escape. And there, Bhima, they engaged the Sudras to do that, digging the tunnel. And then Bhima goes to Kshatriya, is passionate, he wants to get involved, with doing this. And the Sudra tells him, "Dear Rajan, this is not your duty, I shall do this." And Bhima says, "I'm sorry, I apologize." And he leaves, and then the Sudra carries on with his duty. "Rajan, you do your duty, leave me to my duty." Right? So in that way, this is, everybody can do their own duty. So there's some very, very important aspects about this. And I want to then, so we didn't mention, what are the 4 ashrams? Testing you early in the morning. What's the ashram, Nikunja? Yes, the brahmachari, the grihastha, vanaprastha, and the sannyas, right? So the 4 spiritual orders. That's why it's referred to as brahmachari ashram, grihastha ashram, vanaprastha ashram, sannyas ashram. Ashram means spiritual. So what are these qualities then? If you go to chapter 18 of your Bhagavad Gita, those of you online, make note of this study, my student, if anyone's watching. So the text, this text outline the qualities. So text 18:41, I'll just read the English. Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas and Sudras are distinguished by their qualities born of their own natures in accordance with the material modes or chastiser of the enemy. One Sanskrit. Samo dhammo taposocham shantir ajvam evacha jnanam vijnanam astikyam brahma karma swabhavajam. Peacefulness, self-control, austerity, purity, tolerance, honesty, knowledge, wisdom, and religiousness. These are the natural qualities by which the Brahmanas work. Heroism, power, determination, resourcefulness, courage in battle, generosity, and leadership are the natural qualities of the work for the Kshatriyas. Farming, cow protection, business are the natural work for the Vaishyas. And for the Sudras, their labor and service to others. By following his qualities of work, every man can become perfect. Now hear from me how this can be done. 47. It is better to engage in one's own occupation even though one may perform it imperfectly than to accept another's occupation and perform it perfectly. Duties prescribed according to one's nature are never affected by sinful reactions. So, the Lord is explaining this concept of Varnashra Dharma, that by engaging in our natures, in fact, there is merit to that, right? We see that in the Vedic culture, they would have, at the birth of the child, astrology would be done. And then they would determine what is the particular nature of the child. And they would engage the child in the education to satisfy that propensity or to facilitate that propensity. Therefore, the artists would be artists. The Kshatriyas would be Kshatriyas. The administrators would come out and be schooled in the administration. The farmers would be farmers. And they would do everything perfectly. Now what happens? You ask some student who's at varsity, who's done medical school or something, 5, 6 years, you ask them if they're happy. They say, nah, I'm not happy. I don't know why I chose this. Then they drop out and do interior decorating. Because their propensity was some kind of art rather than this. And they're frustrated with what they've done, what they've taken on. They become frustrated. The dropout rate from university is so high. Why? Why is that? Ask our engineer. She left her career in chemical engineering, and now she's fulfilling her dharma as a devotee. Savaipumsam paro dharma. Yato bhakti radokshati. Ahai tuki apratyata. Ya yatma shuprashidati. The highest occupation for mankind is that by which he or she would attend the transcendental or the transcendent devotional service of the Supreme Lord. So in society, then the king, he engaged people in their dharma, but with the intent that they would develop their attraction to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is according to one's nature, one would engage in their service. And the king then would ensure, kings like Prithu Maharaj would ensure that the jiva who's engaged in these different occupations would dovetail their activities in the service of the Supreme Lord. And in that way, everybody would be peaceful. Because now they would understand, I'm engaged in my dharma, in my varna and ashram, so that I will please the Supreme Lord. So, a few extracts from Bhagavad Gita, and we'll make this point about Varnashra Dharma clearer, I hope. And how is it different from Karma Kanda? How is it different from Karma Yoga? How is it different from pure devotional service? So let's see what we obtain from this. So Bhagavad Gita 1846, English also. By worship of the Lord, who is the source of all beings and who is all-pervading, man can attain perfection through performing his own work. The purport I've extracted. Thus the Brahmanas, Kshatriyas and Sudras and Vaishyas may execute their prescribed duties as these duties are stated in the Shastras. In this way, everyone can satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu. The king or government head has to see that the citizens are thus engaged. In other words, the state or the government must not deviate from its duty, but declaring that the state is a secular one, which has no interest in whether or not the people advance in Varnashra Dharma. So for the sake of voting and being in power, governments have compromised on their duty, their highest duty, Savai Pumsam. So they have, what have they compromised? They have allowed the citizens to do as they please. And the citizens who have given the highest sense gratification by a particular ruling party will then vote for that person. Right? Gaurabhumi gave a nice example yesterday, which comes to mind now, about the person who was one of the politicians who was voting on the campaign, and he had a whiskey bottle on one side and a young girl on his left, and he said, "This is our program, whiskey and women." And people will go, "Yay, yay!" Right? So this is the program. So that was very, very, that was an emphatic example of this. They've become secular. What does secular means? Separation of state and God. But yet, on the dollar bill, what is written? In God we trust. In God we trust to make more money, maybe. But or nowadays, that valueless paper money. Money is based on a gold currency. But the Americans are generating paper without the equivalent in the reserve of gold. So it's worthless. It's tantamount to counterfeit. In God we trust to make this paper valuable. So what does it mean? They've become, so they are not encouraging people. And now there's the antithesis of actually that, where demoniac agendas have entered into governments. And the demoniac agendas are taking over. And on this, as Prabhupada says, vox populi, allowing the populace to choose the leaders who can engage, who would engender, if I use the pun, this kind of agenda. Right? They would allow that. So many things are passing in the name of so-called principles that people want to live by, but are actually demoniac. Today, people engage in government service and people who rule over the citizens have no respect for Varnashra Dharma. They complacently feel that the state is secular. In such a government, no one can be happy. Prabhupada is saying that, and it's true. It's an eternal statement. The people must follow the Varnashra Dharma, and the king must see that they are following it nicely. So King Prithu Maharaj, his duty will always come back. It's being emphasized here in the purport. And if you go to the previous chapter, you'll see several purports. Srila Prabhupada has spoken about Varnashra Dharma. Has emphasized that, and we won't get into that because you have gone through it. From Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, right? I will just, chapter 14, text 18. The king is supposed, this is the translation of the verse, and then Prabhupada's comment. The king is supposed to be pious, in whose state and cities the general populace strictly observes the system of 8 social orders of Varna and Ashram, and where all citizens engage in worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead by their particular occupations. Purport. The state's duty and the citizen's duty are very nicely explained in this verse. The activities of the government, head or king, as well as the activities of the citizens, should be so directed that ultimately everyone engages in devotional service to the Supreme Personality of God. Ultimately, right? By engaging them in their duties, then eventually they will come to that. So, it is the duty of the government to see that things go on in terms of Varna and Ashram. As stated herein, Bhagavan Yagya Purush, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the Yagya Purush. He is the Purusha of the Yagya. Bhoktaram Yagya Tapasam Sarva Loka Maheshwaram Suridham Sarva Bhutanam Nyadvam Mam Shantim Ruchiti. If one understands that the Yagya Purush, the beneficiary of all sacrifices and austerities, and all of your offerings, and is the Supreme Lord of all the planets and the demigods, then he will attain peace. So this Yagya Purush indicates Lord Vishnu. So that's the difference. Karma Kanda is about demigod worship, fruitive. But Varnashra Dharma is about understanding there is a Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu, and everyone's activities are dovetailed in that. Everybody's activities and natures are meant to be with that understanding. However, in Varnashra Dharma, there's still personal interests. And that makes the difference between that and pure devotional service. Pure devotional service is only when we engage and start engaging in the 9 process of devotional service. From Shavanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Pada Sevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atma, Nivedanam. Only when we engage in that, then we start to become placed in pure devotional service. So there are some other discussions that I could, when I'm keeping an eye on the time as well. But we discussed this. This is very also discussed in Nectar of Devotion. Srila Rupa Goswami discusses these points about Varnashra Dharma and makes the distinction there, of course, pure devotional service is being described. So what are some of the things we can take away for this, for ourselves, and understand it in our devotional context? So first, let us understand that whenever and wherever there's decline in religion, Krishna will establish the principles of Dharma, either himself, and Bhagavad Gita establishes many principles of Varna and Ashram, right? So, and then Karma Yoga. So the Yada Yada Hi Dharmasya applies. King Prithu Maharaj has been placed, as well as a Shakti avatar. And then we sing by the examples of King Prithu, Yad Yada Chariti Shrestas, Tat Tad Evataro Jana. Sayat Pranama Kurute Lokas Tad Anuvartate. Whatever action a great man performs, common men will follow. And whatever exemplary acts he engages with, all the world will pursue. So King Prithu Maharaj is a pure devotee of the Lord. But by his example as a king, he has duties to perform so that the citizens will follow that. And you see most of the kings, you wonder how come the kings are engaged with so much of duties, administration, and protection, and wealth, and so on. But they understand that everything belongs to the Supreme Lord. They are the servants of the people. A term that's bandied about today by politicians, right? And in the devotional context, what do we say? Daso asmi, daso asmi, daso asmi. Your servant, Prabhu, your servant, Prabhu. Right? We say that. But then what does it really, really mean? What does it really mean to be that servant? When it interferes a little bit with our independence and maybe an inconvenience to us, then we're not the servant at that time. So, some characteristics then we see of leaders, the 4 C's. Character is one. And there are many, many principles of character: responsibility, morality, ethical leadership. I've seen once, as a lecturer in university, I'm engaged with students. So I go out sometimes. We engage in evaluating them, assessing them when they're out in schools, like they're trainee teachers. So we've got to go see what they do and so on. And in one school, I saw on the front of the chalkboard above the board is written, what a impactful. Krishna is everywhere, Character is what you do when no one is looking. That was written there. How powerful is that? Character is what you do when no one is looking. The devotee has a deeper understanding. Yes, Krishna is looking. Paramatma is with me. So how much more grave and responsible we have to be about character and character building and having that character. And then when you develop that, then people will see and identify you for that. Not that you want to be known for it, but naturally you say, wow, this person has all of these qualities and I can learn. Competence. Character competence. One has to be efficient in what one is doing. When we start off doing something in our devotional service, we may not be so competent. And we know. We do some service and Guru Maharaj says, okay, Rukmini, all right. All right. Like that, some chants, some more. You can practice it, all right? So overlook our our incompetences, then we develop, we know. We want to be more and more competent in what we do. Because ultimately it's for Krishna. Pleasing the spiritual master is pleasing Krishna. We want to please, we want to engage, become competent in what we do. So we take up whatever we do, we sacrifice our time and energy to learn it. And so much more for the administrator, like a king or a ruler, temple president, spiritual master. Competence. Because they're giving direction. Compassion is the other one. And so many categories of compassion are there. But we learn, right, within the devotional context. Compassion means, the ultimate compassion means that we're seeing every living entity in this world is suffering because they are bereft of Krishna. All of this suffering is happening because they've forgotten Krishna. So we want to go out. Now is the marathon. We want to go out. We want to give these books. We want to give this knowledge to people. We want to tell people your suffering is because you are very involved in this material nature. Step out of it. Step aside. Here, read this. This knowledge will help you to bear with what you're going through, your trials and tribulations, and give you a higher goal to understand, yes, it's happening because I've identified in this way. Now I want to be a devotee. And when I'm a devotee, when the suffering comes, also then I understand and I will accept that this is due to my past karma. I'm going through this, but I will hold on to your lotus feet. Tattuna kampam shushamikshmano. I will hold on to your lotus feet while going through my trials and tribulations. You please help me. The devotee sees that other devotees suffering, then in that way we are compassionate to assist that devotee in whichever ways we can. So we have so many, right? Therefore we engage also in so many programs, preaching. Preaching Krishna consciousness is the epitome of compassion. Because we want to do it with that mood that, yes, I have seen the benefit of this Krishna consciousness in my own life. I now want to share it. I have the panacea. Let me give it out. Let me give it out. Let me give it out to everybody. This is the depth. So yesterday we were speaking about the sage sees the unhappiness of others. That's what it means. The unhappiness of others. So let me help them. Let me give a hearing also. Listen and then assist. So compassion, and the last one, courage. So the 4 C's in leadership, as the trends are in the corporate, they want to have these things. But of course, it's empty without a sense of Krishna consciousness. It's an empty situation without God consciousness. It is like, the person on board a plane, the host or hostess, who's trained to smile and be compassionate. But it's just a job. And you wait for your break to say, phew, that was tough. Now I don't have to deal with them for a while, right? So that, but we live it, whether we're in the interaction with others or not. The mood of compassion we carry, and we're courageous because it demands a type of commitment, a type of stepping out of our own comforts. It demands, it's actually declaring a war on a material nature that is waiting to bring you down and stamp you down all the time. So what are the 4 C's of leadership? Character, competence, compassion, courage. There'll be more, of course, but we can pick on these 4 few, at least something. And did Prithu Maharaj have all of them? Yes. What's the next letter after C? D. So devotion is the underpinning factor for these 4 C's. Everything. If you do it without devotion, then it won't really have a sustainability. Thank you so much. We'll stop there, and I know I'm slightly over, but is there a comment or question? Rukmini, you normally have comments and questions. I'd like you to add here. There's the microphone. They want to hear on this, or I'll repeat. Again, Ekevarna Hari Bhakta. Yes. That's right. So that's why it says that one who engages in devotional service transcends the practice of Varna and Ashram. Prabhupada says that in one purport. It is so complex. The Varna and Ashrams are so complex in this day and age. Therefore, one should engage in devotional service, and there would be no need to consider that. It's there. I can find that purport for you. You're jail free. Yeah, that is it. So one goes ahead, and when you're situated in devotional service, then the Varna and Ashram don't. They have this Devarishi Bhutapta Nirnam Pitrinam Na Kinkaro Rini Cha Rajan. What is that? Sarvatmana Sharanam Sharinam Gato Mukundam Parihitya Kartam. For one who is situated in devotional service, he's got no obligations to ancestors and obligations to demigods, obligations even to family members, it says there. Gato Mukundam. Gato, the goal. Param Gati, Param Padam. Param Gati, the ultimate goal. Gato Mukundam. Mukunda, the giver of liberation. Right? Mukunda. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Maharaj Pritu ki jai. Shri Shri Radha Radhanath ki jai. Shri Shri Nitai Gaur Hari ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Panchakalpadurubhyascha kripa sindhubhya vicha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namah Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Hare Krishna. Jaya Radhe